Welcome to the broadcast, my dear fruit fancies. What a vulgar parade in this trolley dash for trophies and accolades and awards. Every week a different award for these two philanthropists, humanitarians, legends of aviation. I'm so sorry. It is so vulgar, as if to be sickening. But before I get stuck into those two, I've got Felix Finkelstein, or Felix Finkelstein, to deal with. I'll go with Finkelstein. Felix Finkelstein, you claim to be in the know, but you know nothing. You say, "Hi River, if you knew anything about the fashion world, you'd know that the woman with Meghan is Anna Wintour, not Anna Winter. It's Tour, T-O-U-R. So you pronounced her name incorrectly, because I said Anna Winter. Anna Winter. You pronounced her name incorrectly, as you do for Princess Eugenie, and I'm using your stress on the second syllable here. Eugenie or Eugenie. I say Eugenie. It's embarrassing. Do better. Oh, my, Felix Finkelstein, you're brave, aren't you? You're brave? Or stupid? Which one is it, darling? Because you're certainly not in the know. First of all, I'll deal with your claim that Anna Winter is pronounced Wintour. Roll the tape.
I'm Anna Winter, and this is my masterclass. I'm Anna Winter, and this is my masterclass. I'm Anna Winter, and this is my masterclass.
So let's be clear, I don't give a flying fuck how you pronounce her name, or pronounce anything else in the world. You could even pronounce River, if it's to your fancy. But what you won't do is tell me how to pronounce her name when Anna Winter herself pronounces it Anna Winter, just as I said it. Do you have ears, Dumbo? Do you have ears on the side of your face and a brain in between them? I don't know who you've been mixing with, my dear, but it's certainly not society. And there's nothing wrong if people want to pronounce it Wintour or Wintour, either the diphthong or the monophthong version. It's fine, people do, especially in America. I think even Andre Leontali would say Miss Wintour, and that's fine, and I'm sure she wouldn't have a problem with it. But for those in the know, especially in English society, one dismisses those diphthongs and even the monophthongs, and it becomes a neutral vowel. Despite the spelling, you understand, it becomes a neutral vowel, which is the as in the, so you get winter. Do you understand? This is what's de rigueur in society. So think again before you attempt to throw shade upon my credentials, because the embarrassing one is you, lover boy. And I've addressed the Eugenie question a million times, so I'm sorry to go over it for those who already heard it, and I won't dwell on it, but her name is Princess Eugenie. That is how she says it, how her mother and father say it, how the late Queen pronounced it, Eugenie. The stress on the first syllable. They don't make a meal of Eugenie or Eugenie, as is the fashion elsewhere, but it's not the fashion in royalty.
It's amazing, and I love Eugenie so much, and we're just very, very happy and over the moon for what is to come. Had Ballater sapphire, but then didn't want to do anything until Eugenie had signed off on it.
And she was named for the late Victoria Eugenie of Battenberg, later Queen of Spain, a granddaughter of Queen Victoria, and a daughter of a Princess Beatrice, or Beatrice, as I like to say. See, one can have fun and one can play, if one is furnished with the real data first and uses that as a launch pad. Do you understand? That's when you can play and be imaginative. But one has to know what's what first of all. And if you know anything about royalty or the Yorks, then you will know that she is Princess Eugenie. And actually that is perfectly in common with the French, which is usually pronounced Eugenie. Eugenie. The stress is still not on the second syllable of Eugenie or Eugenie. It's Eugenie. And that goes back being derived from the Greek, which I'm not going to really attempt to pronounce, the Greek for Eugenia, but it's along the lines of Eugenia. So still the stress is not on the second syllable. It's on the heavier near the first and third syllable in that case.
It's amazing, and I love Eugenie so much, and we're just very, very happy and over the moon for what is to come.
I won't belabor the point anymore, but if you come for me, you'll get me, do you understand? And speaking of the Yorks, I am going to be going to York in December. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hear from Basketeers all the time who live in the cathedral city of York. Oh, how I adore our cathedral cities. They are the best. They are just the best. Steeped in history as they are, medieval in feel, many of them. They just echo with history. I love being in them, particularly around Christmas time, and I'm going to be going in December with a friend of mine who I haven't seen for over 10 years. Well, it'll be a month over 10 years when I actually see her. And I've spoken to you about her before because we fell out. Actually, it wasn't a dramatic falling out, but our friendship ameliorated and we stopped speaking to each other. And she is a very, very, very close friend of mine. She informs my humour, my personality. Much of what you see here on the broadcast is her. She's had a profound influence on my life. But our friendship ameliorated because we began becoming disillusioned with each other's political views and ideologies. Not that I think I hold an ideology, but she certainly does. She's a very, very, very left-wing character. Some of my friends left, right, and all over the place, but she is very, very left, a Corbynista into the Free Palestine shit and all of this. And she actually became a renowned activist, which she's retired from now. But for a while she was extremely active and quite prolific and very involved in the silencing and cancellation of very well-known public figures from platforms, and having some involvement in some of them even losing work and job opportunities. And so I didn't like that. We didn't speak for 10 years. We missed each other dreadfully, but it seemed to be a bridge that had collapsed and there was no way back. She reached out to me in the summer while I was at Coombe Abbey, actually, one of the hotels that I broadcasted from to you. It was while I was there, and I'd actually been thinking of her a lot because we used to spend so much time in hotels. The last time we saw each other 10 years ago, 10 years ago in the November of 2015, we had met up for a couple of days in Edinburgh and had a lovely time waltzing around Edinburgh, being very naughty and getting up to all kinds of mischief in Edinburgh, going on the ghost tour, going to the Palace of Holyrood House and the castle, and it was just wonderful. But that was the last time I saw her. And she reached out to me, and as soon as she reached out to me by message, I cried. So it was evident to me how much I've missed her. And I do miss her, and I'm so excited to see her and spend time in York. But I'm mentioning it to you because I've mentioned this friendship before when we've spoken about how over the last few years it's been difficult for us, hasn't it? With friends and family, we're all very polarised. Everything is very politically charged these days, and sometimes you have these disagreements with people who are beloved in our lives. You can't seem to reach some kind of conclusion. And some of the issues, in fact most of them still exist between us. Things haven't really changed. She hasn't had a sudden epiphany, and I certainly haven't either, but there is a sort of recognition of the fact that life is very short, and if one can work things out and perhaps avoid certain issues or compromise on others, then sometimes it's worth trying to salvage these relationships, isn't it? Not always, but we're giving it a go. And I'm looking forward to having lots of fun in York. We're going to go to the cathedral there, which is so magnificent, and the dungeon. She really wants to go to the dungeon, which is a rather tourist kind of thing to do, but that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to have some nice fine dining experience because we do love food. Good company, good wine, and good food is what it's all about, isn't it, my dear? So I'm looking forward to that sparkly time in York before Christmas. And I know from you, I remember a Basketeer recommending Betty's Tea Room, so I'm going to pop in there as well for a cup of tea and a slice of cake, and I'll think about you, my dear, for recommending it. Let me know if you are a Basketeer of York. Well, as I alluded to in response to Felix Finkelstein and his aspersions, I know the fashion industry and the fashion world very well, for both reasons of business and of pleasure. And if you've been watching the show for a while, you'll know that one reason that I am particularly drawn to the area of London that I live in, between Camden and Highgate, but revolving around Kentish Town, Tufnell Park, Archway, all that area, Hampstead, is because of Spring Studios, which is sort of on the outskirts of Kentish Town and Gospel Oak. For a while, I've got to tell you, my entire life revolved around that place, and the characters there that come and go, it's a world-renowned studio space where models, photographers, celebrities, anybody at all goes. And it's a real hub and a real hive, not just professionally, but also socially as well. It's got the most fantastic bar there, and I've had the most glittering evenings there. Quite fancy moments, actually, I've got to tell you. And I'm dropping in that fact here because it was at Spring Studios New York that hosted the Humanitarian of the Year Awards from Project Healthy Minds. So it was interesting to see that connection, and I didn't appreciate watching them maraud around, to be honest. But, well, let's deal with the look first. And I know it's not as much fun, but I actually have no complaints about Meghan's look for this appearance, so I'm not going to manufacture any just for the sake of it. I think, the simple black with gold chain here is quite chic. The neckline does plunge, but it doesn't reveal anything. And she laid off the talcum powder this time, didn't she? Bronzing up again, but not too incredulously. So I can't really muster up much complaint about that. I mean, I've seen some folk rather cruelly mocking the hairline online, which is a little on the thin side, but I give her props for that, because there's so many times I've complained about everything flopping around so artificially, that at least it's natural, it's simple, and it's not flopping all over the place. So I actually prefer that. It's not too sleek, and it's intentionally rather imperfect, which I think is a slight improvement on the slick appearance last week. So another trophy for the cabinet. They should emblazon it with bullshitters of the century. Then they might actually deserve the award. They humbly accepted their Humanitarians of the Year award at this annual gala in the Big Apple. And Meghan said, "Our children, Archie and Lilibet, are just 6 and 4 years old. Can you believe it?" Well, there are thousands out there that actually don't believe it, Meghan, but I do, so you're in luck. She went on to speak about the dangers of the digital age and safeguarding children from social media. Well, where was your humanitarianism and humanity, Meghan and Harry, for Granny and Grandpa, whose legacy you trashed and whose institution you cheapened? Where exactly was your concern for safeguarding, as you vilified and accused your pa and sissy-in-law, and then William et al. For all kinds of nasties over years, employing agents of mischief like the boozies of this world who mock William and Catherine in the most disparaging way and encourage and entice such spite? It's rank hypocrisy from these low-ranking rankers. But actually, if you wish to see a true humanitarian in action, then look no further than Prince William, because he has all the compassion with zero vulgarity. Rhiann's story was shared by the Prince and Princess of Wales, which has moved the nation. Rhiann lost her husband to suicide after the death of her third child, George, and she was actually acquainted with Prince William several years ago, and she received an MBE for setting up a charity, To Wish Upon a Star, which has helped 3,000 people in Wales who have been affected by similar sudden tragedies. And they caught up for a cup of tea for Mental Health Day this week, and William made the headlines because he choked up and he was fighting back the tears. And of course, as he did that, I did it as well, and I began choking up and the tears came. I cry at anything these days. It's absolutely pathetic, actually. I am much too much of a softie. The Royal Foundation is uniting charities across the 4 home nations to transform suicide prevention in the kingdom through a new network. And then there is the Princess of Wales, truly selfless as she is, with Harry and Meghan only parroting what she's already spoken. But Catherine does it with elegance. Do you see the difference? And from the lips of the truly pulchritudinous. Catherine delivered a powerful essay in collaboration with a professor from Harvard Medical School entitled The Power of Human Connection, and it was published by the Royal Foundation, offering a personal perspective on why early childhood matters so deeply. She warns how digital distractions are harming a fundamental human need, urging a conscious effort to focus when spending quality time with kinfolk. Catherine confirms that her 3 children do not have phones. And quite right. I would ban phones for under 16s if I was in charge. Yes, I would. I would make them illegal for under 16s. I think it's an absolute scandal. It makes me shudder to think how growing, evolving brains coming through and attention spans are being affected in these young minds in children. This is the age of the screen, isn't it? In my great-granny's day, she and her friends would go to the picture palace. Quite frequently, I think, perhaps weekly or fortnightly. You know, the picture palace was a big deal then, but that was it. That was the only moment you were in front of the screen. A silver screen of Hollywood, you know, watching all those old movies back in the day. Can they have ever imagined that less than a century later, everyone would be avidly, screen this, screen that, screen the other? I'm doing it now, aren't I? Looking at one and you're looking back at me, so we're all guilty of it. But every year, more and more time is spent staring at screens, and these young ones are getting into it and coming down with all kinds of attention deficit disorders and all the rest of it. Through the looking glass, we seem to meet the world these days, the virtual world, while ignoring the real one that's all around us. And then it was to Oxford for the Princess of Wales, to Home Start, a network of 175 local charities providing free support for families in homes and communities across the kingdom. Our willowy princess wore Vicky Beckham in this patch pocket jacket and Alina trousers in the colour willow. And we've seen it before, but this time she paired it with green amethyst pear drop earrings. Isn't that unusual? And the gold diamond midnight moon necklace with Ralph Lauren heels in gold calfskin. And she enjoyed time with the children, and she was chatting with parents and volunteers about the holistic support received from Home Start. The Rose Hill Community Centre thronged with a contagious joy as the princess sprinkled the stardust of royal confetti on the scene. Yes, we saw the olive tones of this Victoria Beckham ensemble earlier in the year, so it's becoming a staple, but this appearance coincided with the release of Netflix's latest offering, Victoria Beckham, which is a 3-parter, and I've got to tell you, I rather enjoyed it. For an idle hour, it was okay, a bit of fun. What did you think of it, my dears, if you watched it? I felt that actually over the 3 parts it began running out of steam. The first instalment was the best, then the second, and then it ran out of steam a bit. But it was interesting, I suppose you could say. We see what they present as the vulnerable side of Victoria. She mentions an eating disorder and all of their insecurities. Well, listen, I don't dislike Sir David and Lady Beckham. Both of them have charms. I don't especially like them either. I know most of the ladies are absolutely in love with David Beckham, but I mean, I'm not saying I'd say no to him, and you know, he's got an attractive face and all of that. I just don't really go for footballers. Footballers aren't my thing. Rugby players, now that's a horse of a different colour. Yeah. Rugby players all day long. Make yourself known. But you'll know when it comes to David, because we've spoken about him before, I'm not really keen on the public handling of his infidelities. And I'm talking about the public dismissal of them. I don't care about their private life, that's their business, so it's not a judgment on that, but it was the public dismissal of various claims which were obviously true that I didn't care for, and I thought cheapened them. But what I will say, as much as they do have their charms and they can be likeable, if you think that Meghan is contrived, and she really is, we've no doubt about that, have we? Monstrously so. She pales in comparison to the absurd parade of pouting and preening and posing by Victoria Beckham. It's just off the scale, and I've seen her do it in the flesh as well as many times on camera footage. I've seen her do it in the flesh, and it's quite extraordinary. She is utterly possessed in the doing of it, and in this documentary she admits to it, so she confesses it. props to her for that, I suppose, but they both appear to me very much intoxicated by the love of self and of their image. It's all about the image, isn't it? And good on them, you know. They make many tens of millions in the process of doing it, as well as working very hard. So I don't begrudge them all of that. I really don't, you know. But this whole facade that they like to put on is not for me. And as I've hinted previously, I know that there's all this chatter about Brooklyn sort of being snatched and stolen away and influenced by Nicola Peltz. Well, I don't necessarily buy that narrative. I'm biding my time, but what I will say is that it must be absolutely exhausting dealing with all that kind of ego from their parents, and in particular in this case we see from Victoria. Just absolutely exhausting. I feel very blessed and fortunate that I didn't have to go through that sort of scenario with my parents or my family members. I mean, so exhausting. And actually, young Harper, as enthusiastic as she is regarding her parents, I could sense that for her very tender years, I mean, she has a lot of maturity for her young age. She still looked absolutely exhausted by it. I don't blame her. So, you know, the other thing about Victoria that irks me, although I'm not really disparaging her for doing it, is the lip job that she had, you know. This injection she's had, and I can't disparage her because I've been tempted to do it myself in the past. I've just always been curious to know what I'd look like with big Kylie Minogue lips. Probably ridiculous, but but don't worry, I haven't done it, and not likely to. You never know. And I'm afraid that it is very distracting. And when I look at her face, it's all I can see, that lip job, and I think it looks stupid. But it was fairly enjoyable and perfectly acceptable to accompany a tea break. This sort of thing. Now, let's talk about the King and the Prince of Wales, because they appeared together in a rare joint engagement in the run-up to a climate summit in Brazil, which is going to be happening in November. They arrived together at the Natural History Museum in the State Bentley for the reception. In November, William is due to attend the conference on the Amazon Delta on behalf of the King. And King and Heir rubbed shoulders with a host of politicians, as well as scientists. And he was shown AI, because it's all AI this and AI that at the moment, isn't it, my dear? And I must confess, have you seen some of those computer-generated AI-generated vignettes of the late Queen?
Hello, my dears. Get ready with me to go out in Nashville. We're going full rhinestone diplomacy tonight. Little gloss never hurt anyone. Yee-haw, darling. The Nashville edition.
I cannot say that I approve of her image and voice being used in such a way, but some of them really are rather quite amusing. And for those of you who are a great fan of the King's work, then you'll be looking forward to Finding Harmony, A King's Mission, which you'll be able to watch on Amazon Prime as a documentary next year. And it's being promoted with this newly released photograph of the King in a splendid pink tie. I absolutely adore gentlemen in pink. And it charts his efforts to save the planet. We'll see our monarch reflecting on his commitment to promote a sustainable world, and the King will be shown reviewing archived footage of his speeches and engagements over the years. And our dear King Cosy Socks was out in Scotland in Ballater, and he was with his Queen at the Albert Hall for the 150th anniversary of that venue, and he had fun with a range of community groups who regularly use the hall, from Ballater's local history group to the Lego Club. And the Majesties were immortalised in Lego, receiving miniature versions of themselves, which was so fun. And King Cosy Socks looked elegant in the King Charles III tartan. Doesn't a space become so cosy and so warm with the addition of a sprinkling of tartan and some kilts here and there? I think it always brings a warmth to any scene, whether it's on kilts, duvets or curtains. So you can add a splash of it anywhere, my dear. He was greeted by adoring crowds and the district pipe band. Ballater has a long association with the royal family through their nearby residences at Balmoral and Birk Hall. And we must wish many happy returns to Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, who turned 90 years old this week. He was born on October the 9th, 1935. A grandson of King George V, he was Queen Elizabeth's cousin, and he inherited the dukedom at the age of just 6. After his father, Prince George, Duke of Kent, died after his plane crashed at the age of 39. And if you look him up, you'll see that he's rumoured to have had rather a racy, bisexual love life. But I'm not one to gossip. He joined the military academy. He qualified as an interpreter of French and then had a glittering military career spanning 21 years. Of course, he married the late Catherine in 1961, who died very recently, and he's been involved with over 140 charities, lifeboats and scouting being some of his specialties, and he's just been a stalwart and devoted servant of the royal scene. And a very happy birthday to you, sir, from me and all of my Basketeers. And then another Prince Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh this time, visited the Oval Cricket Ground to see the charity's inclusive cricket programmes in action. His Royal Highness joined a game of table cricket, an accessible version of the game played in special educational needs and disability schools across the kingdom. The Duke was named patron of the Lord's Taverners earlier this year, following in the footsteps of Prince Philip. And his wife, the Duchess of Edinburgh, our golden trophy, Sophie, presented the England football team and Chelsea goalkeeper with the Love Your Eyes Special Recognition Award. This was for World Sight Day. And this goalkeeper, Hannah, was born with a serious visual condition that left her with almost no depth perception. And Hannah underwent multiple surgeries at a young age, but then she defied the odds to become one of the world's leading goalies. And so, in her Royal Highness's role as Global Ambassador, Sophie continued her championing of efforts to make eye care available and accessible for all. The Princess Royal rocked up for autumn looking absolutely delicious in tawny tweeds and a splash of scarlet, with amber visor lunettes at a series of engagements in Dorset. At Bovington Equestrian Centre she was shown around by that character from Doc Martin, the actor Martin Clunes, who's president of the British Horse Society, Anne is vice president, you understand, and she watched riding demonstrations and she met students of the Royal Armoured Corps Saddle Club. At the Boat Building Academy, an opportunity was presented to highlight the urgent need to pressure and promote marine heritage crafts. And then it was to Shaftesbury Ivy Lodge, of which Anne is patron. It's a supported living service, and here you can see dear Dennis showcasing his cooking skills in the kitchen at Ivy Lodge. And one of the governors said that visits like this from the Princess Royal are of priceless benefit to our charity. Today Her Royal Highness listened to the views of those in Ivy Lodge and asked questions about their lives. All of this makes them feel valued. The Princess opened the new Dorset Police Headquarters and the Memorial Garden, where she was given a tour, and she met local dignitaries, staff and volunteers. And so this season of busy royal engagements for autumn continues. I look forward to seeing you the next time. Take care and toodle pep. Channel the royal spirit.